I was thrown out of my own brother's funeral by my family, who said it was to keep the peace, as if my grief was a threat. They turned their backs on me during the hardest moment of my life. Now that tensions are boiling over, they want me to come back and fix everything. Funny how suddenly I matter again. Removed from my brother's memorial service to maintain peace. I became unreachable when the subsequent family gathering descended into disorder. They located me, pleading, "You absolutely must resolve this situation." I'm Lisa, 32, and I never imagined my brother Jake's 40th birthday celebration would ignite such turmoil within my family. Growing up, I was the reserved one, the quiet observer who faded beside Jake's prominence. He was always the boisterous, captivating individual, with a wide smile and an even larger personality, the type of person who could talk his way out of any predicament. Mom and Dad adored him, referring to him as their favorite son, while I lingered in the background, simply striving to keep things calm. So, when Jake announced a grand party to commemorate his significant age, I felt a surge of enthusiasm. I envisioned contributing, perhaps selecting a venue or baking one of my chocolate confections he used to praise. I wanted to be involved, to feel a sense of belonging for once. That hope quickly dissolved. 2 weeks prior, my phone rang, and it was Mom. Her voice was strained, as if she were concealing something. "Lisa, we need to discuss Jake's party," she began. I braced myself, anticipating a last-minute chore. Instead, she informed me, "Jake believes it's best if you don't attend. He's concerned you'll incite conflict." Conflict? Me? I'm the one who mediates situations, who holds her tongue when Jake's ego spirals out of control. I couldn't even respond initially, just sat there stunned as the words registered. "He truly said that?" I finally managed, my throat parched. "Yes, dear," Mom said, softer now, as if that made it better. "He just desires everything to be flawless." Flawless without me. It felt like a blow to the chest, sharp and personal. I hadn't argued with Jake, hadn't done anything but attempt to assist, yet here I was, excluded from his important day like some troublemaker. The rejection stung more intensely than I anticipated, and I couldn't dismiss the question replaying in my mind, had I ever truly mattered to them, or was I merely the shadow they didn't require? Jake and I were never the type of siblings who completed each other's thoughts. We got along adequately as children, but there were always these minor provocations, him teasing me for being overly serious, me rolling my eyes at his constant need for validation. Nothing substantial, just typical brother-sister interactions. But when he began organizing his 40th birthday extravaganza, something shifted. I contacted him, eager to help. "Hey, what about that rooftop establishment downtown?" I'd suggest, envisioning a pleasant evening under the stars. He'd dismiss it with a laugh. "Nah, too small for my crowd." And that was the end of it. I offered to bake his cherished cake, the one with the fudge topping he used to plead for. "We're hiring a professional, Lisa," he said, as if my effort were some amateur jest. Every suggestion I put forth was rejected, and I began to feel as though my input was inconsequential. It wasn't just Jake. Mom and Dad enthusiastically joined in, extolling his big day as if it were the most significant event of the century. They would go on about how he deserved it, successful career, impressive acquaintances, while I sat there, nursing my coffee, wondering when they would acknowledge my presence. I had always been the quieter one, certainly, but this felt different. It was as if I were diminishing, transforming into a mere background prop in the Jake spectacle. I tried to disregard it, telling myself it was his moment, not mine, but deep down, it smarted. Every disregarded suggestion, every casual dismissal, accumulated like building blocks. Then came Mom's call about my non-attendance. That vague excuse about drama made no sense whatsoever. I hadn't shouted at Jake or created a scene. If anything, I had gone to great lengths to stay out of his way. Sitting on my couch after that call, I replayed our recent conversations, searching for any indication of what I had done wrong. Nothing aligned. All I could contemplate was that perhaps this wasn't new. Perhaps I had always been the superfluous component they didn't know what to do with, and that pain was more profound than I wished to admit. After Mom's call, I spent a couple of days simply gazing at the walls, the sting of Jake's rejection echoing in my mind. I could have called him, demanded explanations, or pleaded to be allowed back in, but what would have been the purpose? They had already made up their minds. I wasn't going to grovel for a place at a table that didn't desire my presence. So, I did something I hadn't done in years. I prioritized myself. I browsed online, found a small mountain retreat a few hours away, nothing elaborate, just a bed, a porch, and a view, and reserved it for the weekend of Jake's party. No one knew. I didn't inform them. I packed a bag, included a couple of novels I had intended to read, and set off. Up there, surrounded by pine trees and crisp air, I felt the tension in my chest ease. I would sit on the porch with a mug of tea, observing the sun descend behind the ridges, and for the first time in weeks, I wasn't dwelling on what I had done incorrectly. I hiked a trail one morning, the rustle of leaves beneath my boots silencing the clamor in my mind. I wasn't some source of potential upheaval. I was simply Lisa, breathing, existing away from their disorder. It wasn't entirely smooth sailing. Glimpses of Jake laughing with his friends or Mom fussing over his big night would intrude, and I would feel that ache again. But I would dismiss it, open a book, and let the narrative transport me elsewhere. By the second day, I realized I didn't miss it, not the party, not the pressure to conform. I had spent so long attempting to be what they required that I had forgotten what I desired. This excursion wasn't about proving a point. It was about discovering a sliver of tranquility they couldn't disturb. I didn't know what had transpired when I returned, but up there, with the mountain stretching before me, I began to believe I could manage it, whatever it might be. I was midway through my cabin escape, sipping coffee on the porch with a book in my lap, when my phone vibrated. It was Dad, and his voice sounded off, hoarse, as if he hadn't slept. "Lisa, the party's a catastrophe," he said. "Jake needs you to come home." I froze, the mountain air suddenly feeling too thin. "What happened?" I asked, preparing myself. He sighed. "It's a mess. Things got out of hand, and Jake's panicking. He told everyone you abandoned us to spite him, and now people are furious with you." My stomach clenched. Spite him? I hadn't even spoken to him since Mom's call. "That's not true," I said, my voice trembling. "He uninvited me, Dad, you know that." There was a pause then. "Yeah, well, that's not what he's claiming. Look, just come back. We need you here." I put the phone down, gazing at the trees as anger surged. Jake hadn't just excluded me, he had fabricated a lie to portray me as the villain. I could envision it, him at the party, shrugging to his friends. "Yeah, Lisa's upset I didn't beg her to come, so she's punishing me." And they believed it, our cousins, old family acquaintances, all nodding along while I was up here, miles away, trying to heal. It wasn't enough for him to push me away, he had to defame me too. My hands tightened around my mug, the warmth biting my palms. This wasn't some misunderstanding, this was Jake twisting the knife, ensuring I remained the antagonist in his perfect little narrative. I called Dad back. "I'm not coming," I said, sharper than I intended. He lied, "And you're asking me to fix it?" "No way," he began pleading. "Lisa, it's family." But I interrupted him. "Family doesn't do this." I hung up, my pulse racing. The quiet I had found up here was gone, replaced by a fire I hadn't experienced before. Jake didn't just want me out of his limelight. He wanted me crushed beneath it. And for what? To save face? I tossed my phone aside, the betrayal sinking in deeper with every breath. I thought stepping away would be sufficient, but now I saw it. Jake wasn't finished with me yet, and that made me wonder what else he had planned. I had barely slept after Dad's call, Jake's falsehood still tormenting me, when my phone illuminated again the next morning. It was a text from Mom. "Lisa, we're in a predicament. Party went significantly over budget, $5,000 over. Can you help, please?" I stared at the screen, my coffee cooling in my hand. $5,000 for a party I wasn't even permitted to attend? I typed back, Are you serious? Her reply came swiftly. Yes, dear, it's bad. Jake's a wreck, and we can't afford it. Family helps family. I laughed, but it was bitter hollow. Family? The same family that allowed Jake to tarnish my reputation to a room full of people who now considered me some petty grudge holder? I paced the cabin, the wooden floor creaking beneath my feet. They hadn't called to apologize for his stunt, or inquire about my well-being. No, they went directly for my finances, as if I were some emergency fund they could access whenever Jake's grand schemes went awry. I could see Mom wringing her hands, Dad nodding along, both of them thinking, Lisa will fix it, she always does. But this was a new low. I wasn't just the outcast now. I was the financial resource they expected to rescue them from a mess I had no part in creating. I called Mom, my voice tight. I'm not paying a cent. You guys excluded me, and now you want my money? That's not how this operates. She began her guilt trip. We're desperate, Lisa, you don't comprehend how much this signifies to Jake. But I stopped her. No, Mom, I'm done being your contingency plan. I hung up before she could argue, my hands trembling. Anger surged through me, hot and sharp, but beneath it, something else flickered, pride. For once, I wasn't yielding. I wasn't letting them draw me back into their sphere. Sitting on the porch later, watching the mountains fade into dusk, I felt the weight of their desperation settle in. They didn't care about me, not genuinely, just what I could provide. It hurt, certainly, but it also ignited a resolve. If they believed I would break under this, they were mistaken. I had walked away once. I could do it again. I was still reeling from Mom's text about the $5,000 when my phone chimed again the next afternoon, this time from my bank. Unusual activity alert, $2,000 withdrawal. My heart sank. I hadn't touched my savings in weeks. I logged in, hands trembling, and there it was, a transfer dated the night of Jake's party, linked to his old joint account with me from years back. We had established it for a shared car loan, long since repaid, but I had never closed it. He had taken $2,000, my money, without a word. I called him, fury constricting my voice. Jake, what in the world did you steal from me? He didn't even flinch. Borrowed it, he said, as casually as if he'd taken a soda from my refrigerator. Party costs escalated, and you weren't there to contribute, so I assumed you wouldn't object. Wouldn't object? I slammed my phone down, the cabin walls closing in. This wasn't just him fabricating stories or them pleading for cash. This was Jake intruding into my life and taking what wasn't his. That $2,000 was my financial safety net, accumulated from overtime at a job I detested, intended for emergencies, not his extravagant celebration. I called him back, barely maintaining composure. You had no right. That's mine, Jake. He snorted. Come on, Lisa, it's family money. I'll repay you when things stabilize. Family money? The audacity. He had uninvited me, slandered my name, and now stolen from me, all while acting as if I owed him. I sat on the cabin floor, staring at the bank application, the betrayal cutting deeper than anything before. It wasn't just the cash, it was the trust he had incinerated. I had always known Jake was self-centered, but this was a boundary crossed I couldn't unsee. My mind raced. How long had he viewed me as a resource, not a sister? I filed a dispute with the bank, my voice steady but insides churning. He wasn't going to get away with this, not this time. As the sun set outside, I felt something shift, anger, yes, but also a cold clarity. Jake didn't just want me out of his way. He wanted me to finance his disorder, and I was done allowing him. The bank dispute was still pending when my phone began vibrating incessantly the next day. First, it was Dad calling, then Mom texting, then a voicemail from my cousin Tara. Lisa, what's happening? Jake says you're abandoning us. By noon, I had a dozen messages, all revolving around the same plea. We need you to pay the $5,000. Jake's a mess, and we're overwhelmed. I didn't answer, couldn't. My head was still reeling from him stealing $2,000, and now they were pressuring me as if I were their sole support. Dad's last text hit hard. If you don't help, we'll lose the house. Please, Lisa. Lose the house over a party? It seemed improbable, but the desperation in his words gnawed at me. That evening I heard a knock. I peered out the cabin window. Mom and Dad stood there, eyes red, faces drawn. I opened the door, arms crossed. We didn't know where else to turn, Mom said, her voice breaking. Jake's spiraling, the vendors are suing, and your $5,000 could resolve it. Dad chimed in. He didn't intend to take your money. It was a mistake. A mistake? I almost laughed. He stole from me. I snapped. And you let him lie about me to everyone. Now you're here begging? You chose him over me every step of this. Mom reached for my hand, tears flowing. We're your family, Lisa. Don't turn your back on us. I pulled away, my chest tight. They weren't sorry, not truly. They didn't care about the years I'd spent resolving their problems, or how they'd ignored me until they needed something. This was just another attempt, another way to keep me bound to their chaos. You made your choice when you let him exclude me, I said, my voice steady despite the ache. I'm not fixing this. Dad's face hardened. You'll regret this, he muttered. But they left, their footsteps heavy on the gravel. Alone again, I sank onto the couch, their words echoing. Guilt tugged at me. What if they genuinely lost everything? But then I recalled Jake's smug expression, the bank alert, their silence until it suited them. They created this predicament. I was no longer their savior. I barely had time to process Mom and Dad's visit when my phone vibrated again the next morning. It was Jake texting. You're selfish, Lisa, always have been. Don't bother showing up for Christmas. You're not welcome. I stared at the words, my breath catching. Selfish? After he'd stolen from me, lied about me, and left me to clean up his mess? The hypocrisy struck like a physical blow. But it wasn't just anger that surged, it was clarity. This was who he was, who they all were, people who would take and take until I had nothing left. I typed back, my finger steady. I'm done being your doormat, Jake. Goodbye. I hit send, then blocked his number before he could reply. The calls didn't cease, however. Mom left a voicemail, sobbing. Please, Lisa, don't do this. Dad tried next, his tone gruff. You're tearing us apart. I let them ring out, each unanswered call a brick in the wall I was constructing. It wasn't easy. Guilt gnawed at me, whispering I was too harsh, that family shouldn't end like this. But then I'd see that bank alert, hear Jake's casual. I figured you wouldn't mind, and remember their tearful pleas only came when they needed my money. I'd been their punching bag, their ATM, their problem solver, never their equal. Not anymore. I sat on the cabin porch that night, the stars sharp against the darkness, and felt the burden shift. Cutting them off wasn't just about the money or the falsehoods, it was about me. For years I had diminished myself to suit their needs, suppressing the pain to maintain peace. Now saying no felt raw, like removing a bandage stuck too long. I wasn't abandoning them. I was saving myself. My phone remained silent after I blocked Mom and Dad too, and the quiet was heavy but liberating. I didn't know if they would try again, but it didn't matter. I had drawn the line. The ache lingered, certainly. Years of hoping they would truly see me couldn't vanish overnight. But as I inhaled the cool mountain air, I knew I had made the correct decision. I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. For the first time, I was my own. After I blocked them, the silence was profound. For days I kept my phone nearby, half expecting Mom or Dad to reappear or Jake to hurl another insult. But nothing came, no calls, no texts, no knocks. At first it unsettled me, as if I had stepped off a precipice and hadn't yet reached the bottom. I had severed the connection, but had I lost something I couldn't regain? Then, slowly, the quiet began to feel different, lighter. I drove home from the cabin, unpacked, and settled into my apartment, allowing the days to unfold without their turmoil. I picked up a paintbrush one afternoon, something I hadn't touched since college, and lost hours to it. I hiked local trails, reconnected with a friend who didn't know Jake's name. For once, my time was my own. Weeks later, my phone vibrated, a text from Jake. I miss you, Lisa. I messed up. Can we talk? I stared at it, the old pull tugging at me. Part of me wanted to believe him, to think he had changed. But I knew better. This wasn't remorse. It was another lure, a way to draw me back when the consequences became too burdensome. I typed slowly, deliberately. I'm sorry, Jake, but I can't. I need this for me. Take care. I sent it, put the phone down, and waited for the guilt to overwhelm me. It didn't. Instead, relief washed over me, clean and deep. I had spent years seeking their approval, bending until I broke. Now, I was finished. The bank reversed the $2,000 a week later, a small victory, but it felt immense. I didn't hear from Mom or Dad again, and that silence conveyed everything. They had only wanted me when I could give, not when I needed them to acknowledge me. It still hurt. Family is supposed to be a safety net, not a trap. But as I stood in my kitchen, sipping coffee I brewed just for myself, I realized I wasn't grieving them anymore. I was free. The weight of their expectations, their demands, their disorder, it was gone. I had chosen myself, and that choice settled into my being like a long overdue breath. Sometimes I would find myself wondering if they would ever comprehend it, if they would realize what they had lost. But it no longer mattered. I was living for myself now, painting, hiking, building a life they couldn't touch. And that was sufficient. Thank you for viewing the video. If this narrative resonated with you, please share your thoughts below. Your endorsement may seem minor, but it provides me with the resolve to continue creating every single day.